When some threads have minor damage on a fastener, using a tap and die set can be far too aggressive. So the question is that $44 thread chaser set just as good as the one that cost $153? Well, let's find out. In the first test, we'll see which thread chaser cleans up damaged threads the best. Then we'll see which one does the best job with rusty threads. We'll also see which one does the best job of removing some JB Weld. At a price of $140 is this Irwin tap and die set. To serve as our control, we'll be using this Irwin tap and die set. I did a review on tap and die sets a while back, and the Irwin brand did a tremendous job. It's a machine screw and fractional tap and die set. Includes a total of 41 pieces. The Irwin tap and die set is made in USA. Let's prepare some 1/4 inch by 2.5 inch bolts for one of the tests. I'll first weigh all the bolts, and then I'll place vinyl tape on part of the threads. All the bolts have been weighed and the vinyl tape's in place, so let's go ahead and coat the threads with some JB Weld. We'll need to allow the JB Weld to cure for 24 hours, and then we'll do some testing on them. Since thread chasers are supposed to be able to repair threads, let's crush the threads on a grade 5 bolt. I'll apply very close to 5,500 pounds of force on 2 areas of the bolt, and that's quite a bit of damage to the threads. To serve as our control, instead of using a thread chaser, let's try to repair the threads using a brand new grade 8 nut on this grade 5 bolt. I'll use a torque adapter to keep track of the maximum torque. And the grade 8 nut reached a peak torque of 109 inch-pounds, which is a lot of resistance for a 5/16 inch bolt. Now that we've attempted to repair the bolt with the grade 8 nut, let's go ahead and use a brand new grade 8 nut to see if the repair worked. The nut won't thread on by hand, so let's use a torque adapter and a drill. And there's still a lot of resistance from all the damage to the threads. The first nut took 109 inch-pounds, and the second brand new nut is at 41 inch-pounds, which is better but not good. And the Irwin die is just shredding this bolt and removing a lot of good metal in addition to the damaged threads. This is weakening the remaining threads and possibly the bolt. 70 peak inch-pounds of torque, which is quite a bit less than 109 inch-pounds from the grade 8 nut. Using a brand new grade 8 nut, the nut threads onto the bolt very easily and actually seems too sloppy and loose. A close-up look at the bolt, and a lot of material has been removed. At a price of $44, the least expensive thread chaser set we'll be testing is made by Yeshma. It's a 42-piece universal thread chaser set. Includes 19 rethreading taps, 21 rethreading dies, and 2 SAE rethread files. It's a rethreading repair kit with UNF, UNC, and metric sizes. They claim it's made of a carbon steel for strength and durability. And the Yeshma is made in China. And the Yeshma reached a peak force of 63 inch-pounds, cleaning up the damaged threads. Let's install a brand new nut and see how much improvement was made. Unfortunately, I'm not able to thread on the nut by hand. The number to beat for the control is 41 inch-pounds. And the Yeshma is at 26 inch-pounds, which is 36.5% better than the control. The Yeshma die went from 5.241 grams to 5.239, so a loss of 0.02 grams. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of unrepaired damage to the bolt with the Yeshma. The unrepaired threads are flared out pretty badly. Compared to the new die, there's also a small amount of wear and tear to the Yeshma die. I decided to test this brand just for the name. At a price of $55 is this MAHOOMMAKH brand. It's a 49-piece thread chaser set. Includes both SAE and metric. They claim that this kit efficiently chases threads on rusty fasteners. It's supposed to create smooth threading for studs and spark plugs. Made of high-quality steel with black oxide for zinc coating for lasting strength and corrosion resistance. And the MAHOOMMAKH is made in China. It took 63 inch-pounds to make the thread repair with the Yeshma, and it took less than half the force of 30 inch-pounds with the MAHOOMMAKH. Let's install a brand new grade 8 nut. Unfortunately, the MAHOOMMAKH really struggled in this test at 39 inch-pounds compared to 41 inch-pounds for our control, which was using a brand new grade 8 nut to make the repair. So it barely beat the control. The threads in the bolt still look pretty damaged and in need of a better repair. The die started off at 4.999 grams and experienced a small loss. Comparing the new die to the used die under the microscope, there's definitely some wear and tear. At a price of $57 is this Orion kit. It's a 48-piece metric and SAE kit. Includes 22 taps, 24 dies, and 2 thread files. Sizes 1/4 inch to 9/16. Metric sizes M6 to M14. Helps clean and restore worn and damaged threads. And the Orion brand is made in China. The Orion is performing about the same as the MAHOOMMAKH, reaching a peak force of 36 inch-pounds during the thread repair. Installing the brand new nut, the Orion is at 20 inch-pounds, which is the best yet for the thread repair tools. The damaged threads are still flared and need more repair. The Orion die is down 0.002 grams of weight. Compared to when the die was new, it's definitely experienced some visible wear and tear. At a price of $66 is this VEVOR brand. The VEVOR Thread Restore Kit is the most comprehensive kit yet with a 61-piece set. UNC, UNF, and metric. They claim it has heat-treated steel for strength and durability. They claim a hardness of HRC 55 to 62. It's designed to trace and repair worn or damaged threads. Sizes M6 to M14. And the VEVOR is made in China. Compared to the Orion, the VEVOR is taking more force to make the repair at 47 inch-pounds. Hopefully it's doing an even better job at repairing the threads. And I still cannot install the nut by hand, way too much resistance. And the VEVOR moves into the lead over the Orion at only 12 inch-pounds of force to install the brand new grade 8 nut. A close-up look, and the damaged threads are a lot less flared compared to the previous thread chaser repairs. The VEVOR also looks like it held up a lot better than the previous thread chaser dies. And the VEVOR is down 0.001 grams. At a price of $74 is this AKM kit. The AKM is a 61-piece kit. Includes UNC, UNF, and metric. They claim that the heat-treated steel adds strength and durability, just like the other brands that use a color coding for thread types. Sizes 1/4 inch up to 5/8. Sizes M6 to M14. The AKM is made in China. Compared to the VEVOR, the AKM took even less force to make the repair at only 41 inch-pounds, which is not a good sign. I'm still not able to install the new nut by hand. And the AKM trails the Orion and the VEVOR at 21 inch-pounds after the repair. Unfortunately, the threads have a pretty bad flare and still need a lot more repair. Compared to new, the die looks like it did experience some wear and tear. And the die did experience a very small amount of weight loss. At a price of $95 is this Lang Tools brand. It's a 40-piece fractional and metric thread restorer kit. Sizes 1/4 inch to 5/8. Also includes M6 to M12. It also includes 6 coarse and fine taps, 6 metric taps and dies, 1 metric file, and 1 SAE thread refile. Rethreading tools are color-coded for quick visual identification. Highly tempered for strength and durability. The Lang Tools is made in USA. The Lang Tools is making this look way too easy at only 28 inch-pounds of peak torque to make the thread repair. And I'm finally able to install the brand new grade 8 nut by hand. Very impressive. So out of all the thread repair kits, this is the first one that actually made a proper repair. A close-up look under the microscope, and the Lang did a terrific job at repairing the flared threads. The Lang die definitely appears to have a lot better geometry compared to the previous brands. What's more impressive is it still looks good after making the repair, and the Lang is only down 0.001 grams. At a price of $148 is this CTA Tools brand. It's a 53-piece rethreading set. Includes sizes M6 to M14. It also includes sizes 1/4 inch to 9/16. It's designed for thread repair only and not for cutting new threads. It comes with 2 different thread files. Just like the other brands, everything is color-coded to make use easier. And the CTA Tools is made in USA. And the CTA is making the repair look even easier than the Lang Tools at only 11 inch-pounds to make the thread repair. Unfortunately, I cannot install the nut by hand. And it's taking 13 inch-pounds of torque to install the brand new grade 8 nut, which is good enough to move into 3rd place behind the VEVOR. Unfortunately, the repaired threads obviously have more repair that needs to take place. And the CTA appears to have experienced more visible wear than the Lang Tools. The CTA die lost the most weight yet at 0.01 grams. At a price of $154 is this Gray Tools brand. Includes 19 taps, 32 dies, and 2 thread files. Includes some very large dies up to 3/4 inch and 20 millimeters. They claim it's ideal for restoring stripped threads on old, rusty nuts and bolts. It's backed by a limited lifetime warranty. The Gray Tools is also a 53-piece rethreading kit. Includes tap sizes 1/4 inch to 9/16, M6 to M12. And the Gray Tools is made in USA. Just like the CTA Tools, the Gray Tool needs about the same amount of force to make the repair at 13 inch-pounds. Unfortunately, I still can't install the nut by hand. And it takes 10 inch-pounds to install the new nut, which is good enough to move into 2nd place behind the Lang Tools. The damage area on the bolt does look better than most of the other brands, but the Gray Tool die is down 0.008 grams. Just like the CTA Tools, the Gray Tools also experience more visible wear compared to the Lang Tools. This is a bolt repaired by the Irwin Tap Die set with a brand new grade 8 nut. And there's 1.12 millimeters of side-to-side movement. This is a bolt repaired by the Lang Tools thread chaser die. And the Lang Tools perform significantly better at 0.6 millimeters, about half the slop. A close look under the microscope, as well as comparing the weights of the dies, most of the dies appear to be different than each other. So the Irwin Tap Die set, as well as the Lang Tools, came in on top with a thread repair that allows a brand new nut to be installed by hand. However, the Irwin Tap Die definitely left a very loose-fitting nut after the repair. I weighed the bolts before and after each test, and the Irwin removed the most material at 0.104 grams. Lang Tools removed less than half as much at 0.048 grams. Gray Tools, 0.041. The brands that really struggled in this test struggled to remove damaged material. I applied nearly 9,500 pounds of force on the threads of a grade 8 coarse thread 5/16 inch bolt in 2 areas. I then painted the threads black so we can better observe the repairs under the microscope. I also weighed the bolts before and after the repair. To serve as our control, let's use a brand new grade 8 nut to help clean up the threads on this grade 8 bolt. I won't use cutting oil since that's an extra variable that can throw off our test results. And the grade 8 nut reached a peak torque of 95 inch-pounds trying to make the thread repair. Let's throw away that nut and install a brand new one to see how much progress we made. And there has been some progress from 95 to 56 inch-pounds. So there's quite a bit of unfinished business. Let's once again use the Irwin Tap Die set to clean up the threads on the damaged grade 8 bolt. The Irwin is once again removing a lot of metal from the bolt and reached a peak torque of 51 inch-pounds. Once again, the nut does thread onto the bolt very easily, but it does seem very loose. A microscopic view of the Irwin stripped away pretty much all of the black paint as well as a lot of the yellow zinc coating. There are quite a few metal shavings inside the Irwin Tap. The Yeshma experienced some wear and tear with the grade 5 bolt, and the Yeshma only reached a peak torque of 37 inch-pounds this time compared to 95 inch-pounds for the control using a grade 8 nut. Let's go ahead and install a brand new grade 8 nut, and it's taking 30 inch-pounds compared to 56 inch-pounds for the control. So the Yeshma definitely did a better job than the control, but there's still more repair that needs to be made, and there's a lot of black paint still on the bolt. The Yeshma die still weighs the same as it did before. However, the die is showing quite a bit of wear. The MAHOOMMAKH also experienced some visible wear from the grade 8 bolt. However, the MAHOOMMAKH reached a peak torque of 21 inch-pounds compared to 95 for the control. Let's go ahead and install a brand new nut and see how it performs. And the MAHOOMMAKH once again beat the control at 20 inch-pounds, which is quite a bit better than 56 inch-pounds for the control. There's still more repair that needs to be made, and there's a lot of black paint still on the bolt. After blowing off the die to remove the metal flakes, the die has lost a little bit of additional weight. The Orion struggled to remove the damaged material on the grade 5 bolt, and the die reached a peak torque of 34 inch-pounds on the painted grade 8 bolt. So the die must have experienced quite a bit of wear and tear on the grade 5 bolt and is taking right at 30 inch-pounds to drive on the brand new nut. A look under the microscope, and there's quite a bit of paint on the areas of the bolt that still need to be repaired. The die is also showing quite a bit of wear and tear and still weighs the same as it did before. The first 3 brands really didn't put up too much of a fight with the grade 8 bolt, but the VEVOR seems to be making more progress at 43 inch-pounds to repair the bolt. And the VEVOR definitely seems to have made a lot more progress than the previous brands at 5 inch-pounds to install the brand new nut. The VEVOR did a great job of leaving the paint on the undamaged portion of the threads. It also did a pretty good job of repairing the damaged metal. There is a small amount of wear with the die, and the die has lost a small amount of additional weight. Just like with the VEVOR, the AKM put up a pretty good fight and reached a peak torque of 36 inch-pounds. Let's install a brand new nut to measure the repair. Just like with the grade 5 bolt, the AKM moves into second place behind the VEVOR, this time at 11 inch-pounds. The remaining paint on the AKM does demonstrate that the AKM did a pretty good job of leaving alone the undamaged areas of the bolt. The die did experience some additional wear and tear and now weighs a little bit less than it did before the repair. Just like last time with the grade 5 bolt, the Lang tools required less force to make the repair than all the previous brands at only 20 inch-pounds. But the question is, did it actually make a decent repair? And the Lang tools did the best job so far, and the nut moves freely. Very impressive! A microscopic view reveals that the Lang tool surgically removed the damaged metal without causing harm to the undamaged thread. Definitely the best thread chaser yet. The Lang tool's die still looks pretty good. The die did gain a very small amount of weight, presumably from some leftovers. The CTA Tools finished in 3rd place among the thread chasing tools in the last round, but it did lose the most weight of all the brands. The CTA Tools reached a peak force of 12 inch-pounds, making the thread repair. Installing the brand new nut did take quite a bit more force at 25 inch-pounds. So the CTA Tools did experience a lot of wear and tear. A look under the microscope, and the CTA Tools left behind a lot of unfinished business on the damaged threads. The die looks more worn than the Lang tools, but the die did not lose any additional weight. Just like the CTA Tools, the Gray Tools didn't put up much of a fight at only 15 inch-pounds, making the thread repair. And the Gray Tools performed better than the CTA Tools once again at 15 inch-pounds, installing the brand new nut on the repaired threads. Just like the CTA Tools, the Gray Tools left behind more unfinished business than the Lang Tools. Once again, the Irwin and the Lang tools are the only 2 brands to make a repair that allows a new nut to be installed by hand. However, the Irwin Tap Die set did remove a lot more good material from the repaired bolt. VEVOR finished in 3rd place this time at 5 inch-pounds. The next test pieces have been a work in progress for the last 4 months. After applying rusting agent 3 times per day for the last 4 months, the test pieces are finally ready for action. Let's establish our control using a brand new grade 8 nut on this very rusty bolt. There's a lot of rust and it's taking quite a bit of force to drive the nut onto the bolt. And the grade 8 nut working as a thread chaser reached a peak force of 38 inch-pounds. Let's throw away the grade 8 nut that we just used and install a new one. I'm able to install the nut partially by hand, and that's about it. And the threads still have quite a bit of rust on them, and the torque meter is showing a peak force of 10 inch-pounds. Let's test the Irwin Tap Die set next. The Irwin made very easy work of the rusty threads at only 6 inch-pounds. The Irwin did a great job of removing the rust and also took some clean metal with it. The nut now threads onto the bolt very easily. The Yeshma die required a little bit more force than the Irwin at 7 inch-pounds. There's quite a bit of rust still on the bolt. The brand new grade 8 nut is getting held up by rust, and it took a maximum force of 12 inch-pounds. The MAHOOMMAKH reached a peak force of 4 inch-pounds. There's still quite a bit of rust on the bolt. The brand new grade 8 nut did experience less resistance than the Yeshma repair at 6 inch-pounds. Cleaning up the rust, the Orion performed about the same as the MAHOOMMAKH at 5 inch-pounds. Compared to the other thread chasers, the Orion looks the best yet. and the brand new grade 8 nut threads on by hand fairly smoothly. The VEVOR made very easy work of the rusty bolt at only 3 inch-pounds. The VEVOR did a pretty good job of cleaning up the rust. No issues threading on the brand new grade 8 nut by hand. The torque adapter is showing 6 inch-pounds for the AKM. However, the AKM did a pretty good job of cleaning up the chunks of rust. No issues threading on the nut. The Lang tools hit a peak force of 5 inch-pounds cleaning up the rust. The Lang tools did a great job of cleaning up the rusty threads. The nut now threads onto the bolt very smoothly. The CTA attempted to clean up the rusty threads and the torque adapter never left zero. All of the big chunks of rust have been removed and the nut threads onto the bolt with a very small amount of resistance. The gray tools also made easy work of the rusty bolt at 5 inch-pounds. After cleaning up the rust, the grade 8 nut threaded onto the bolt pretty easily. So most of the brands performed well and cleaned up the threads good enough to install the nut by hand with little effort. Let's test the thread taps next. I'll use a brand new grade 8 bolt as our control. There's a lot of resistance and the new bolt reached a maximum torque of 58 inch-pounds. Let's throw away the bolt and use a brand new bolt. I'm able to thread the bolt most of the way, but it's taking 4 inch-pounds to get past this stuck area. The Yeshma also required a bit of force to clean up the rusty nut at 30 inch-pounds. The brand new grade 8 bolt threaded into the nut easily. The MAHOOMMAKH performed about the same as the Yeshma at 29 inch-pounds. The new bolt does thread into the nut easily. The Orion tap requires the least amount of force yet at 17 inch-pounds. I'll have to use a ratchet to drive the bolt and there's a peak force of 6 inch-pounds. The VEVOR matched the Orion at 17 inch-pounds cleaning up the threads. And the bolt threads into the nut smoothly. The AKM finished the thread repair at 19 inch-pounds of peak force. To thread in the new bolt it takes 3 inch-pounds of force. The Lang tools is really going to work on this rusty nut at 56 inch-pounds. Threading in the new bolt and the Lang tools did a really good job of cleaning up the threads. The CTA Tools reached a peak force of 27 inch-pounds and the new bolt threads into the nut with very little resistance. The gray tools is almost the same as the CTA Tools at 30 inch-pounds. The bolt threads into the nut with very little effort. So most of the thread repair kits did a really good job of cleaning up the threads, allowing for the new bolt to be installed by hand. In the final test, let's see how well the thread chaser kit's performing removing the JB Weld from the threads on his 1/4 inch coarse threaded bolt. On the 5th rotation, the Irwin is at 15 inch-pounds. And the Irwin removed the JB Weld in addition to some of the zinc coating on the bolt. The nut now fits pretty loosely on the bolt. On the 5th rotation, the Yeshma is at 18 inch-pounds. And the Yeshma left behind a lot of unfinished business on the threads. The MAHOOMMAKH took a little more force than the Yeshma at 23 inch-pounds. It also did a better job than the Yeshma at cleaning up the threads. The Orion is at 18 inch-pounds, the same as the Yeshma, but there's a lot more JB Weld still on the threads. And is taking 11 inch-pounds of force to thread the bolt into the nut. The VEVOR requires the least amount of force yet at 14 inch-pounds on the 5th turn. And the VEVOR has done the best job yet at cleaning up the threads and the bolt threads into the nut easily. The AKM needs the most force yet at 24 inch-pounds. And the threads are still pretty clogged up with the JB Weld. And 15 inch-pounds to install the brand new nut is the most force yet. The teeth on the Lang tools die look the sharpest in the lineup and it only took 6 inch-pounds of force for the Lang tools. The Lang tools bolt looks the best yet. And the brand new bolt threads into the nut very easily. The CTA Tools made it to 9 inch-pounds on the 5th rotation. Unfortunately, the threads need a lot more work and it's 10 inch-pounds for the CTA Tools. The gray tools performed about the same as the CTA Tools at 9 inch-pounds. However, the gray tools did clean up the threads a little bit better and the bolt threads into the nut just fine. Assessing the amount of JB Weld on the threads is highly subjective, but the Irwin Tap Die removed all of the JB Weld and some of the bolt. Lang tools finished in 2nd place with the rating of 1.5 and VEVOR 3rd with the rating of 2. Most of the thread chasers did perform good enough for the nut to be threaded onto the bolt by hand. So which thread chaser kit is best? The left side of the chart includes some basic information about each brand. On the right side of the scorecard, I've converted the graded areas into a first through last place ranking. The Lang tools and the Irwin Tap Die set had an average finish at 1st place. The Lang tools is by far the best thread chaser tool in the lineup. It finished in 1st place in every graded area. In my opinion, the Irwin Tap Die set is just way too aggressive for thread repair. It didn't just remove the damage, it also removed some good material. So at a price of around $95, the Lang tools would definitely be my choice. If the Lang tools is a little too expensive, the VEVOR is also a pretty good option with an average finish of 2nd place. It's a really good tool for cleaning threads and not quite as good as the Lang tools for reshaping damaged threads. I'd really like to have the Project Farm logo on the Lang tool set. What an amazing set. Speaking of amazing, check out these very impressive underwear which I mentioned in a recent video, and since then we had a lot of sales, so I went and came up with a different set of underwear, the Let's Find Out underwear. Check those out at the Project Farm merch. And finally, a lot of people have been asking for a Project Farm hat, and I have one finally made. All the videos of this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested, so if you have a video idea, I hope you'll take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching, please take care, and look forward to next time.